Almost all of us have one thing in common. We all know one particular phone number by heart. It's none other than Jenny's number. I'm willing to bet most people had that number memorized before they memorized their own mom or dad's number or anyone else's number. 8675309 is... Oh man, how many times am I going to say that number throughout this video? 8675309 is probably one of the catchiest and most recognizable tunes ever created. It was released in 1981 and became a massive hit. It's considered by many to be one of the greatest one-hit wonders of all time. It had an enormous effect on people when it was released, and till this very day, its impact is still going strong. I swear, it's almost like a hidden rule of life to have that song memorized. When you hear that sequence of numbers in the song for the first time, you'll never look at them nor say them the same way ever again. But where in the world did the number even come from? Is the song actually based on someone's number, or is Jenny a real person? Well, let's dive into it. Let's take a quick look at the album where the song originally came out. This is the album Tommy Tutone 2. Rolls right off the tongue. This is the band's second studio album and was released in 1981. The album featured 11 original songs, with 8675309 Jenny being the first track. 8675309 also had a 45 single release and was paired with the song Not Say Goodbye as the B-side, which was also first featured on the Tommy Tutone 2 album. And of course, like many other songs released in the 80s, 8675309 would have its own music video. I gotta mention something. I seriously appreciate these album inner sleeves because a lot of them have the lyrics printed on them for each track. If it wasn't on the sleeve, sometimes there would be paper inserts with the lyrics. Just another reason why vinyl records are so awesome. Sure, CDs also have the lyrics contained in their booklets, and I appreciate that inclusion, but a lot of the time the words are so small you need a magnifying glass to read them. And don't even get me started with cassette tapes. Although, I do appreciate the effort of their inclusion too. In case you didn't know, Tommy Tutone is not the name of a particular artist. It's technically the name of the entire band. The name Tommy comes from the band's lead singer's name, Tommy Heath. The band's original name was Tommy and the Tutones. It would eventually evolve into Tommy Tutone. The other main band members include Jim Keller, who played lead guitar, John Leones, who played bass, and Victor Carberry, who played drums. One additional musician that recorded with Tommy Tutone for 8675309 is John Cowsill. He played percussion and provided backup vocal harmonies. He's credited on the inner sleeve, but he doesn't appear in the music video. John Cowsill has also performed with the Beach Boys as well as Jan and Dean. Many people see Tommy Tutone as a one-hit wonder band, which is understandable considering how popularized 8675309 is. However, I'm going to counter that claim and say Tommy Tutone has a forgotten hit prior to 8675309. Their first hit is titled Angel No Say from their debut self-titled album from 1980. It peaked on the Billboard charts at number 38 when it released. So technically they're not a one-hit wonder band. But if you look past those two songs, both of these albums are very solid, and in my opinion, they have some underrated and overlooked gems. Back to 8675309, the song was written by Alex Call and Jim Keller. A little background on Alex Call: he is another musician and songwriter who is one of the founding members of another rock band called Clover. Clover was active from 1967 to 1978. Another one of the founding members was John McPhee, who also went on to become one of the original members of the Doobie Brothers. Furthermore, Clover would add many other talented members who would go on to be incredibly successful. One of these members includes this guy. Do you recognize him? That's Huey Lewis before he started Huey Lewis and the News. Clover also worked with Elvis Costello and was the backing band for Costello's 1977 debut album, My Aim Is True. Back to Alex Call, he's the person who first came up with 8675309. Eventually, his friend Jim Keller jumped on board and they completed it together. The lyrics are very simple and straightforward. The story of the song is about a naive and desperate man who found the number of a girl named Jenny written on a bathroom wall. He becomes infatuated with Jenny through her number and starts romanticizing about calling her. While working up the courage to contact her, he overthinks and creates all these scenarios in his head about what could happen if he reaches out to her. This is when the lyrics say, "I tried to call you before, but I lost my nerve. I tried my imagination, but I was disturbed." The funniest part about the story is that he's never met her, and chances are, she might not even exist. That's my interpretation at least. This is a very humorous song. Alex Call and Jim Keller were definitely having fun with this song when they were writing it. When it comes to the song's writing process, each band member has shared different stories about the song's inspiration. The first story comes from a 1982 interview with Jim Keller published by People magazine. Jenny is a regular girl, not a hooker. Friends of mine wrote her name and number on a men's room wall at a bar. I called her on a dare, and we dated for a while. I haven't talked with her since the song became a hit, but I hear she thinks I'm a real jerk for writing it. Additionally, in 2008, WGN Morning News interviewed Tommy Heath where he shares a similar story behind the song.
How did that song come about?
Well, Jenny was a real person, and she gave me her phone number and to give to my lead guitar player, and I wrote it on the bathroom wall, and we laughed about it on the way home, and he wrote the song about it.
However, moving back to the year 2004, there's an interview with Alex Call where he settles everything once and for all by giving a very thorough and descriptive story about the song's creation. It's a long quote with a lot of detail, but I'm going to say it in its entirety so that we have the whole story. Despite all the mythology to the contrary, I actually just came up with the Jenny and the telephone number and the music and all that just sitting in my backyard. There was no Jenny. I don't know where the number came from. I was just trying to write a 4-chord rock song and it just kind of came out. This was back in 1981 when I wrote it, and I had at the time a little squirrel-powered 4-track in this industrial yard in California, and I went up there and made a tape of it. I had the guitar lick, I had the name and number, but I didn't know what the song was about. This buddy of mine, Jim Keller, who's the co-writer, was the lead guitar player in Tommy Tutone. He stopped by that afternoon and he said, "Al, it's a girl's number on a bathroom wall." And we had a good laugh. I said, "That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is." Tommy Tutone's been using the story for years that there was a Jenny and she ran a recording studio and so forth. It makes a better story, but it's not true. That sounds a lot better than I made it up under a plum tree in my backyard. It came out of my head. It's one of those songwriting things. That's kind of my method. I play and sing and stuff comes out. Then I hone it, I work on it. It came from somewhere, I don't know, but it was good. I had the thing recorded. I had the name and number, and they were in the same spots. Jenny, 8675309. I had all that going, but I had a blind spot in the creative process. I didn't realize it would be a girl's number on a bathroom wall. When Jim showed up, he wrote the verses in 15 or 20 minutes. They were just obvious. It was just a fun thing. We never thought it would get cut. In fact, even after Tommy Tutone made the record and 8675309 got on the air, it really didn't have a lot of promotion to begin with. But it was one of those songs that got a lot of requests and stayed on the charts. It was on the charts for 40 weeks. Well, there you have it. The truth behind 8675309. It's quite amazing how it just came out of the blue for Alex Call. The song was recorded under the Columbia Records label. Upon the song's release, it gained popularity quickly and became a massive success. The song made its way into the Billboard charts, peaking at number 4. It also peaked at number 1 on Billboard's mainstream rock airplay chart for 3 weeks and placed number 16 at the end of the year on Billboard for 1982. Additionally, due to its huge success, it also went on to be certified gold status by the Recording Industry Association of America. But not only did it rock the charts, it rocked the telephones of those who already had 8675309 as their number. When the song gained popularity, reports arose from owners of the number being flooded with prank calls. Many of these calls were asking for Jenny and/or playing the song through the phone. The song caused people to switch their numbers because they couldn't take the high volume of prank calls. Wow, that's insane how much power this song had. Well, with all that said, let's touch upon some of these cases and learn how some people were affected by it. In May of 1982, a newspaper article published a story about a woman who had the number receiving calls at 2 and 3 in the morning. Her and her husband would receive 24 calls a day. When she learned Tommy Tutone was behind the song, she's quoted saying, "Tommy Tutone was the one who had the record. I'd like to get a hold of his neck and choke him." Dang. There's another story from 1982 from the same article I mentioned earlier by People magazine. The story talks about how a Chicago woman gave up her 8675309 number to the WLS radio station. After obtaining the number, the station logged 22,000 calls within 4 days. WLS provided a taped message from Tommy Heath for those who called the number. The listeners would hear Tommy's recording say, "Hi, thanks for listening to my new song. By the way, even if your name isn't Jenny, I still love you anyway." Another article from 2012 published a story about a family's experience having 8675309 as their number at the time. Here's an abridged and paraphrased version of the story. The family received multiple calls throughout the day that increased over time. They weren't aware of the song's existence yet and were confused on why people were calling and asking, "Is Jenny there?" Most callers sounded young and had rock music playing in the background. The calls went on for a couple weeks and the father of the family grew irritated. He assumed the calls were coming from the same location and contacted the Ohio Bell Telephone Company to put a trace on the line in order to catch the caller. 10 days later, the man followed up with the phone company and a puzzled worker said, "We don't know what to make of this. The calls are coming from all over the place." The family started taking their phones off the hook before bedtime, but one night they forgot and at 2 a.m. they got a call. The father asked the male caller to identify himself and he responded, "Man, I feel sorry for you. Your phone number is on the radio all the time." That's when the family learned about the song. And after hearing the song, the father made a confession. Unfortunately, it's very catchy. For some reason, those numbers just flow. Such a crazy way to find out about the song. What an adventure for this family. On the other hand, there's some people that attempted to make money off the song. In 2004, someone tried to auction their 8675309 number on eBay. Bidding began at $250 and then reached over $80,000 with more than 170 bids. Eventually, eBay had to step in and pull the auction because the seller's phone company said he did not technically own the number. And as of this video, there's currently a listing on eBay for the URL 415-8675309.com for $25,000. Or best offer. The 415 area code is from San Francisco, which is where Tommy Tutone came from, so that's about as authentic as it gets right there. These cases are truly baffling. The impact of the song is tremendous on so many levels. There's so many stories about how people were affected by the song. You can go on and on with them. They're all over the internet. Now, of course, I have to mention, on a more serious note, there were reports of people with the number receiving obscene calls, as well as guys hitting on girls and leaving them their own numbers. That's too far, and I don't condone that behavior whatsoever. That's just wrong and gross. So for all those who had the number at the time and had to deal with all those ridiculous amounts of prank calls, I salute you all for withstanding so much, especially if your name was Jenny and you had the number. One other situation with the number that I'd like to share is that at the time, girls who received unwanted attention from guys would brush them off by giving them 8675309 as their own number. That is absolutely hilarious. The song has been put to many other uses. In addition to being covered and performed countless times by numerous bands and artists, the song has been used and referenced innumerable times. It's been referenced in movies, TV shows, video games, and other songs. It's been everywhere. A notable mention includes an early 2000s commercial for the cell phone company Singular. They used the song in the commercial to advertise number portability. There's also a workout album by Arnold Schwarzenegger that I also happen to own that utilizes this song for part of the routine. And if you ever wanted a follow-up of the song, you're in luck. Tommy Heath has got you covered. He went on to record a follow-up song in 1998 titled Jenny's Calling. It was featured on the album Tutone.rtf. Even though it says it's by Tommy Tutone, the only returning member is Tommy Heath. Even years after its release, 8675309's presence is still making itself known. There's no escaping the song. It's everywhere. We've accepted it as an integral part of pop culture. But I'm not complaining. It's a great song. And for those who already had the number when the song was released, it seems that those people just accepted the circumstances and went along with it until they ultimately switched numbers. The majority of the 8675309 numbers were disconnected, but believe it or not, there's still a small handful of owners out there with the number. Surprisingly, I don't think anyone sued Tommy Tutone over the song. When I did research, I didn't see any lawsuits listed against them. However, what I did find is a lawsuit about two plumbing companies from Rhode Island and Florida fighting over ownership of the number. Apparently, Tommy Heath heard about the dilemma and made a statement saying neither company should have it. That's crazy. I can see why some businesses would want 8675309 as their number. It's a good promotion and an easy number to remember for customers. Well, I'm happy to say the number has found a fitting home at one particular business. There's an 80s themed pizza restaurant based in Colorado that adopted the number and still has it. Before acquiring the number, they were trying to attain it from a real estate agent. At first, the agent denied their request, but eventually came around because he was sick of the prank calls and finally ready to part ways. The owner happily went forward with the switch and got the number. That is so awesome and wholesome. That is the perfect phone number to go with an 80s themed pizza restaurant. You won't find Jenny, but you'll find pizza. It's truly amazing how a sequence of numbers can become so catchy and memorable to say. It's also amazing how this song changed so many people's lives. This song literally took over everything and everyone. It brainwashed us. What is it about this song? Could it be how the numbers flow so easily together? Or could it be the melody that accompanies the lyrics? It's all of that. It just goes to show how well made the song is. I find it funny how even in the music video, Tommy is in therapy reciting Jenny's number to his therapist because he's obsessed with it. That scene is almost like a reflection of how it stuck with us. 8675309 just goes to show how music can be a very powerful thing. It only takes one song to cause so much change. Music is a force that can't be controlled nor contained.